population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Your survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
For too long, American Indian tribes have faced a competitive disadvantage when litigating against powerful forces. With its American Indian law and policy practice, Robbins Kaplan, LLP, seeks to redefine excellence for high-stakes litigation in Indian country. They have worked hand-in-hand with tribes to implement the Tribal Law and Order Act, fighting against diminishment of tribal lands and natural resources, and improving public safety on reservations. The Robbins Kaplan American Indian Law and Policy Practice serves tribes and individuals on commercial, government investigations, agency and tribal boundary disputes, as well as personal injury. Founded and led by former United States Attorneys Brendan Johnson and Tim Purdon, their American Indian Law and Policy Practice exists to bring justice to tribal clients whose claims in the past have been dismissed or ignored due to their underdog status. If you or your tribe are facing legal issues, contact robinskaplan.com or call toll-free at 1-800-553-9910.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Clearing skies tonight with a low of 5 below, then sunshine Saturday and cold with a high of 5 above. Check out Cafe Latte's award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and treats from the bakery made fresh daily. Cafe Latte, Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul. CafeLatte.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We talk each day, 5 days a week, about Native issues and events all over Turtle Island. And as you know, Wendy, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Alliance Energy, powering beyond.
So we got a big show here, and we have Ogimaa with the news leading off, and then we also have State Senator Mary Kunesh, who comes in on Fridays and talks about, well, anything she wants, but it's usually some really good Native stuff and what's happening at the Capitol here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. And then Wendy usually ends it with her sacred animals site and sacred relatives site. But today, Wendy, you have a special guest that's coming on.
I do. I'm really excited because of the good news about the wolves that we had yesterday. We have Dr. Maureen Hackett, who is the founder of Howling for Wolves, and she's going to be joining us later on.
Well, that just makes me want to howl again. So
it does. We'll have to give a good howl before the segment.
Yeah, I bet you she'll join in too, because not only is she a great supporter from day one of Native Roots Radio, she listens to our show all the time. So, and we know that because we get texts and messages from her. So we're super excited to have her on there. All right. Well, let's get with the news here. And this is the news you don't hear anywhere else all over Turtle Island. We have Ogimaa with the news. Welcome, Ogimaa.
Bonjour, Anin, everybody. Happy Friday. I am Ogimaa Giniw Ikwe. I have some news for you here on Native Roots Radio. I wanted to touch base because I know a couple of people asked about it in the comments yesterday about what happened with the Line 3 water protectors who opposed Line 3 in Minnesota. In Aiken County, early on in the Line 3 construction in Minnesota, they were in court yesterday, and people were asking if there was any updates on that. And I did find a quick update from Barbara With on the stopline3.org page, talking about how Winona LaDuke had taken the stand at the evidentiary hearing to testify on behalf of water protectors who are being charged with multiple gross misdemeanors in Minnesota related to the Enbridge Line 3 construction project. The defendants are Marion Moore, Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light Director Julie Nurbon, Holden Buff Brace III and Holden Buff Brace III, and Ashley Compton. Moore was arrested December 14th of 2020 while praying at the Mississippi River and spent the night in jail. Nurbon, Brace, and Compton were arrested on December 7th of 2020 while preparing for ceremony with Winona LaDuke at a prayer lodge on ceded lands guaranteed for use by the Ojibwe people for hunting, fishing, gathering, travel, and prayer. The area had been under a stop work order issued by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as well as a cease and desist order issued by the 1855 Treaty Authority, stating that the Enbridge pipeline construction near the prayer lodge had violated the American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978. The state had retired DNR law enforcement officer Tom Provost testifying on their behalf, and Provost talked about how he was part of the State Asset Preparedness Program, or SAP, which consisted of representatives from the DNR, Homeland Security, Minnesota State Patrol, and the National Guard, which would have been the same ones who populate the Northern Lights Task Force, which was a task force created in Minnesota to protect the basically to protect the Enbridge Corporation instead of to protect Minnesotans. And according to a recent Intercept article, Enbridge Energy had also bought land around Winona LaDuke and other Honor the Earth associates and water protectors, as well as surveyed them. Provost claims that he did not recognize any of those defendants. And then the White Earth Historic Preservation Officer, Jamie Arsenault, also took the stand and testified that nobody ever got back to her from the Aiken County Sheriff when she had called and indicated that there was a stop work order to the Aiken County Sheriff Dan Guda, and she was told that if she went to the site without a state escort that she would be arrested. Nobody could ever provide her proof of a historical survey or cultural monitor survey assessment that had been done. So she wrote her own report. Basically what happens right now is that all the water protectors, as the evidentiary hearing has gone on, they're arguing that under the American Indian Religious Freedom Act, that they did have the right to construct the prayer lodge, which was constructed before construction started, as well as the right to invite others to come and pray, and that for them to be arrested was a violation of the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. As for now, the next hearing has not been set. The date is not yet known, but it's going to be sometime this summer. So that is a quick update from the Line 3. The other big thing that I want to talk to everybody about is that Monday is a day of awareness for our missing and murdered Indigenous women, relatives, and two-spirits. And there's going to be several events around Minnesota as well as the Midwest. I know that there's an event happening in Duluth, but for the life of me, I couldn't find my link to that. So if anybody knows about the Duluth event, go ahead and drop that link in our chat or in our comments on this page or on this video, please. Other events that are happening in the Twin Cities, the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition is having their MMIWR event via Facebook Live this year. They're having it virtual. They'll have an opening prayer with great-grandmother Mary Lyons, and then the legislative and policy panel includes Senator Kunesh and Representative Keeler. They're going to have Lisa Mose from the St. Croix Chippewa tribe and Round Lake community come on to talk about community involvement, and they will be taking live call-ins from statewide events. So if you're having a statewide event, make sure you head over to the MUSAC page or go to tinyurl.com/MMIWR-MN, and they can help spotlight your video. The event through MUSAC is going to go from 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Central Time on Monday, February 14th. In Bemidji, they're going to be having an MMIW rally from 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Downtown at Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox. The program will start taking place at 11 a.m. and then they will also follow that with a search for missing relative Nevaeh Kingbird, who has been missing, I believe, since October. Soup, coffee, and hot cocoa are going to be provided at that event. They encourage everybody to dress warm and mask up. If you have any questions, you can contact MMIW 218 on their Facebook page. And then down in Chicago on Monday, February 14th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Daly Center, the Richard J. Daly Center on Washington Street in Chicago, they're having a Stop Violence Against Indigenous Women and raise awareness for this issue rally, and they're talking about missing and murdered Indigenous women, as well as the violence against Indigenous women. And the theme of the rally is "This is why we wear red." So if you're down in Chicago catching any of this, make sure you can tune in for that on Monday. And then just some happy news here. An Indigenous-directed film called The Headhunter's Daughter won a grand prize at the Sundance Film Festival. It's so exciting because Sundance Film Festival this year had, I believe there was 9 different Indigenous music or Indigenous contents that were in Sundance this year, but for one to take a grand prize at Sundance is a big deal. So exciting news for that on Friday.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Pinigigi Ogimaa with the news. Just want to give a quick shout out to Uncle Curtis, who gave us a shout out here on Facebook. We love you, Uncle, and we miss you, and we hope you are doing well and feeling better. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and up next, State Senator Mary Kunesh.
Mashke Hanajinga. Stay with us.
Ho, Wendy.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College will help you get where you want to go. Located downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, one-on-one mentorship, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality. Connect with a counselor today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry. Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Mary Kunesh, good to see you. I just got a quick thing to bring up before we get into your segments. Excuse me. One of the things is you'll be taking over the show Monday with Heather Keeler, and I'm finding out more and more about this, that you will be probably leading the leading the show. That's what I'm hearing, but we'll have to talk about that soon. And we know the show will be in good hands. And if you wanted to talk a little bit about Monday and what you perceive happening, but we're going to have a MMIWR show, and it'll be some legislators here in Minnesota, and State Senator Mary Kunesh, who's probably could do the show better than me, is going to be on the show. So it'll be, yeah, Wendy's shaking her head yes. Welcome, State Senator Mary Kunesh.
How is everybody?
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Wendy, is it super cold out there, or no?
No, I mean, it's so funny. I was telling Robert yesterday that, I'm walking around, it's like 47 degrees and people have sweaters on their dogs. It's hilarious.
I'd be wearing shorts.
My daughter's here in the background. She's like, bunch of babies.
It is a bunch of babies.
Exactly.
Our dogs would laugh at their dogs.
Oh my gosh, my dog loves this weather. She loves this weather. Her paws don't bother her. The deeper the snow, the happier she is. I mean, she just has the biggest grin when she's out running around. So we don't mind it too much. I just dress warm, and there you go.
Not only is Friday State Senator Mary Kunesh Day here on Native Roots Radio, but it's also the day that you get to see your grandchild, right, Mary?
Yes. I get to spend the day with my little sweetie Reedy, we call her. Her name is Rita Jeanne d'Arc. And I'm sure many people, many families can understand the issue of childcare these days. First of all, there's just such an incredible shortage of them. And second of all, it's extremely expensive. And so we help my daughter out as best we can between the family members. We all take a shift a day, but we're always sort of vying each other, like, hey, if you need a day off, I'm here. So it's actually the highlight of my day to have her. And every week she's just a little bit different and a little more interactive, and it's just fascinating to watch.
Wendy can vouch too, because she's there with our, what is it, our grandniece, Wendy?
A great niece.
Great niece.
So our great niece, my niece's daughter, and she's 3 months old. So I'm there every morning at 6 a.m. and I don't leave till 5. So yeah.
Well, here's our little Rita.
Hi, Rita. She's adorable. If anybody's watching us on Facebook, you get to see little Rita.
I do on Friday, of course, is Zoom. So she has Zoomed internationally. Today we Zoomed Canada and legislators in the Midwest about MMIW. And then I had a few other important meetings. So I told her this is our last Zoom of the day, I promise.
She's probably having a good time. The kids like the screen time. She's adorable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, how much is she absorbing? And will one day when she's older, somebody will say something or something will click and she's like, Where have I heard that before? How do I know that information already? I think she's a ready-born legislator.
That's awesome.
Politician. My daughter's like, ooh, politician. I don't know.
Well, your daughter better watch it too because it's in her blood too, and she's got a few years to go, but she better watch it too.
Well, this one, this daughter is my baby girl. She's actually a butcher and a pastry chef and a confectioner by trade. And right now she's running the butcher program at one of our co-op chains here in the Twin Cities. But she just put a chunk of change down on her own food truck because she's created her own line of sausages, of bratwurst and breakfast sausage and things like that. So last year they did a lot at the farmers market, and this year they're going to take it on the road in a food truck. So that'll be an exciting new development going on in the family.
Well, she'll need to go to those powwows too because we need sausages and vegan sausages as much as we can.
There you go. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Powwow. Good idea.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how the licenses work, but I know, for instance, we can't, if we had a food truck in St. Paul, we'd have to have a St. Paul license and we couldn't go into Minneapolis. And I don't think can have dual licenses, but that's another show, isn't it?
Yeah. Entrepreneurialism in Indian country. There we go.
That's right. Hey, that's definitely right. So, you're doing Zooms, you're double dutying, and I don't know, state senator, but I was in Wisconsin and I was meeting with, some senators in Wisconsin and Madison, and it was very interesting. I was able to meet the Republicans, and some of them have had a couple, or one for sure had COVID really, really bad, and he was overweight and was in the hospital for a long time. But the Republicans didn't want to wear masks. And then the meetings I had with the Democrats were all Zoom. So it's just an upside down world there.
It really is. It's the same here in Minnesota. It's interesting to be on the floor in the Senate, and the Dems are in the minority, so we're all seated down in front, and the GOP is in the majority, so they take the back. And I've seen pictures where all the Dems are sitting in their seats with masks on, and none of the GOP are wearing their masks. Early on, after this past election, they had election night, the GOP had a big party in person, of course, with no masks. And the result of that is a number of them were sick with COVID. But one of their members, who had just retired, if you can imagine, passed away from COVID. I had a GOP challenger a couple of times in the past, and the woman who ran for my seat when I ran for Senate had a GOP challenger. Both of those men passed away from COVID.
Wow.
And so, it's real, but I think they're just taking their chances. I have a cousin that passed away just last week. He had the shots. He lived in Michigan, had the shots, had the booster, contracted a mild version of COVID, but died in his sleep. And the doctors think that it was COVID related. So even when we think we're over it, or I don't know that anybody has immunity the way some folks think. If you've had it, you're good to go. But it really is heartbreaking to know that that there are still people out there who are just being so obtuse and defiant. I mean, I always wear my mask everywhere I go because I have Rita here. I don't want to carry any germs home to her or to the rest of my family. So we're still really, really careful.
That's right, Mary. And Mary and Wendy, I heard today that there was a report that people that have had COVID have serious heart conditions, and that are really affecting their heart now, and that all the studies are coming out with that. Wendy, did you hear that?
Yes, I did hear that. So it's just a long-term problem, and they don't know if it's going to be permanent or not. But that's serious.
Yeah.
It's really serious.
Well,
So
you hear about people with, with like a fuzzy brain for so long, they can't get their thoughts back in order, still respiratory issues, joint pains, all of those kind of symptoms. And we just don't know, how long or what the long-term effects are. And we still don't know how it's going to affect the children. And I think that's really where we have to pay attention to, because heaven forbid we pass this kind of issue on to our children and our grandchildren.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in the way we are in the upside down world, Mary, maybe we can talk a little bit about this in our next segment, but I think the water protectors should have became white semi-truck drivers, and they'd never get arrested. I just really, it's just, we're in an upside down world, really. And wow. Well, we're gonna take a quick break here. You're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and we're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, Wendy Pilot, Ogimaa, and myself, and we're going to have Maureen Hackett of Howling for Wolves on next. Again, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake.
stay with us.
Hey, Ogimaa, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
We are your relatives,
We are your relations,
brothers,
sisters,
sons.
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
Homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
You can't go through a day without hearing about healthcare reform. St. Paul Corner Drug is here to help you navigate the ever-changing healthcare landscape. We are your advocate in getting much-needed prescription medication covered under your insurance plan. Need to choose a different plan? There is no reason to feel like you are drowning in the system. St. Paul Corner Drug can make simple work out of finding you a plan that best suits your needs. You can rest assured at St. Paul Corner Drug, pharmacy the way it should be.
You may not think of it, but winter is a great time to take care of those exterior home projects. This is Chad, owner of AM 950 for Snap Construction. Most people wait until the warmer months for their exterior home projects, but labor costs are actually lowest in the winter. And that's true for the contractor I trust, Snap Construction. Arguably the most well-reviewed exterior contractor and insulation contractor in the metro. Are you noticing ice dams on your house? Or is your furnace constantly running and you're still not comfortable? In addition to your exterior home projects, winter is also a great time to get your insulation checked with a free energy audit from Snap Construction. The average cost to upgrade your insulation is oftentimes less than a new furnace. Plus, there are rebates available from your energy provider when you upgrade your insulation. As always, Snap Construction stands by their work with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. So don't wait for prices to rise in the warmer months. Get a free estimate now by calling 612-333-SNAP, 612-333-SNAP, or go to snapconstruction.com.
Hi, I'm Adam Ostrowski of Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, and I would like to tell you about a big new tax credit. Starting this year, earn a 26% federal tax credit based on the purchase and installation costs of an efficient wood stove or fireplace insert.
We got our wood stove from Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to lower our carbon footprint and to harvest our own renewable energy. Now you can get 26% off the cost in the form of a federal tax credit.
At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, it is our job to find a place for fire that works in your life. We have a diverse selection of fireplace products. Clean wood burning, convenient gas burning, and easy to install electric stoves and fireplaces for inside your home or outdoors too.
Fire offers comfort from the cold and warms the heart. At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, there are so many ways to discover your place for fire, with over 35 working indoor and outdoor fireplaces. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces on the corner of East Franklin Avenue and Riverside in Minneapolis. Out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
This is Santita Jackson, Minneapolis, St. Paul. I couldn't be more excited about starting our days together, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Central, on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Clearing skies tonight with a low of 5 below, then sunshine Saturday and cold with a high of 5 above. Valentine's Day is Monday, so treat that special someone to a fabulous dinner at one of our local Minnesota restaurants or support one of our other wonderful advertisers. Check out our list of advertisers at am950radio.com.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awakened. This is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, thanks, Wendy. We're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh of Minnesota. One of the things we're getting close to Monday, MMIW, Murdered Missing Indigenous Day, and it's also Valentine's Day. And I kind of am going to be missing the big gatherings that we've had over the years. And it's getting smaller, but it's great that you'll be. I see you're going to be in a couple things during the day, Mary, along with Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition, some Zoom stuff, and Ogimaa's talked about that in our news, and we had Angelica on, and also you'll be doing with State Representative Heather Keeler and some other guests too. You're going to be doing this show too in regards. I would like you to tell, because we have a big audience in Milwaukee and Madison and Chicago, kind of how far ahead we are with compared to a lot of states with our MMIW stuff, because I know your bills that you worked on for years have passed and you've really pushed forward. And I wonder if you can just give an overview of what we're doing here in Minnesota.
Right. Well, we are sort of leading the nation in addressing our missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. And it started about 5 years ago when I was in the House of Representatives here in Minnesota and heard about the work that Canada was doing, their national study, and then the really very painful death of a young woman, Savannah Graywin LaFontaine, in Fargo, North Dakota. She was tricked into visiting her neighbors and then went missing. And it took a while before the media paid any attention to her disappearance, even though we knew about it in Indian country. And it wasn't until her body was found in the river by some kayakers. She was 8 months pregnant, and the baby had been cut from her womb. And it was just a horrendous, horrendous crime, of course. And it turned out that those neighbors had plotted all along to steal the baby, and they did. So they were the ones who killed her and then stole the baby. And so between the Canadian report and this story, I realized that Minnesota really had an obligation to address this issue. And I started working on it with our Native community. I really, really involved and asked and invited and begged and pleaded folks to come forward and work on the legislation as we built it, because I wanted to make sure it came from them, from their stories, from their pain, their ancestors, all of our ancestors as well, And we did, and created a task force and completed that task force in 18 months with recommendations and mandates. The first one was to create a permanent missing and murdered Indigenous relatives office so that we would continue this work, not just put this report on a shelf somewhere and say, we're done. Because what we really realized and what we really knew was that there's so much work to do. So we've been working on that, creating that office. I think we will have an executive director almost any day for that office, and then they will fill that with 3 other employees, and we will continue the work of addressing the historic trauma and violence against our Native women and girls, our Two-Spirit, and it extends to the men and boy, because our Native folks have just really still continually tragic things happening as far as child removal, violence, lack of ability to or opportunity to thrive. And so we really want to turn that back around from the last couple hundred years. And luckily, other states are starting to catch on to that too. Like I said this morning, I had a Zoom conference with legislators from the Midwest, as well as from a couple of the provinces in Canada. And we're going to continue this work together and do some collaboration around it. The biggest problem I think I'm finding is that a lot of people don't know about it. And that was the case when I began this work at the state legislature. But once people know, I don't know how they can turn their back on it. They really are obliged to make a difference. And so we're going to continue this work in the best way that we can.
A frequent guest we have, State Senator Smith, is really championing that, and I know he's reached out to Ho-Chunk legislators and the community, and he's a state senator, I believe, in the Black River Falls area. So he's been championing it, and I'm excited that one thing I'm excited about is that we're so far ahead, but also excited that Wisconsin's not too far behind. But
Yep.
It's exciting.
Yep. It's like I say, if every state is doing this work and we're all kind of doing the same thing, collecting the same data, reporting it in the same way, we have our national study right there. We do have our Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, has created a task force, a national one as well. And so I haven't had the opportunity to really do some work with her on this, but I look forward to that. And any of the other states that are wanting to do this, I'm happy to find a way to do that, as well as our Canadian ancestors and relatives to the north.
I don't want to take any power away from the MMIW scene, but I know if you keep on going layer and layer, me being as an adoptee was also missing from our nation, in not as a violent way, but, to take our culture away, one person by one person. So it's just not never ending, but it's just a big long line of trauma in our with our people.
Yep. Somebody described it as an onion. You just keep peeling the layers back and the layers back and the layers back. In Minnesota, our Native kids are removed from their homes, put into foster care, and probably in the pipeline for adoption at higher numbers than any other population in Minnesota, which is just appalling. And that's been the way of doing things for so long. I don't know that people really are doing it so that Natives will assimilate the way it was so intentional in the last couple of generations. But the unintended consequences, they think they're keeping them safe. They're making sure that the kid is warm and has food and maybe clothes, different warm clothes. But at the same time, that's their family. That's their mom, their dad. Those are their ancestors that are being removed, and the trauma of separation. it's just awful. And so these are the things that we'll continue working on, and I hope that we find really good solutions to these issues.
Well, I know the trauma, there's two things I got to say. The trauma is not only with the child that was put up for adoption per se, but also the mother lives with that for her whole life and thinks of him every day, or thinks of him and her every day. So the trauma works so many different ways. Yeah,
It's really true. I mean, siblings that are separated and don't even know each other. In the last 5 years, maybe even 4 years, we have found 3 relatives through 23andMe and Ancestry.com, close relatives. It's been such a joy to be reunited with them. I come from a family of 13 children. If even one of us, anything that happens to one of us, it ripples through our family, incredibly. And so to lose a sibling, I can't imagine having my children removed from me, or their father being made to leave them alone, and he's defenseless. So we really are working hard on undoing a lot of that, and it's not going to happen in a generation. And I think I've mentioned this before. I studied a little bit about epigenetics and how that kind of trauma is really does affect your genetic makeup, and you're passing that on to your children as well. I think it can be reversed, but it'll take a while, and we need to have the safety and security that that's not going to continue.
Yeah, it's interesting. When you say that, the cat's right next to the microphone here. When you say that, it's, your grandmother or my grandmother had my mother's, DNA in her and my DNA in her. So, I mean, it goes in those generations. So it makes total sense that it affects generational, the trauma, just medically.
Yeah. Well, we look at pictures of our ancestors, great grandma, great grandpa, uncle, whoever, auntie, whoever, and somebody will say, oh, she has her eyes, or he has his nose. Those genetics are there, and they're going to come out one way or the other, and we never know where. So we're going to do the best to repair that and make sure that our families don't have to suffer like that anymore.
Well, and it's awesome too, because we're still here, and we worry about our 7 generations, and so it's great that you're doing this work and have been doing this work. But I just wanted to amplify your work because of the MMIW week that's happening or coming up real soon. So I appreciate you letting our audience and that maybe haven't heard or understood some of the things that you've done in as a representative and now a senator in Minnesota. So I just wanted you to talk about that. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, we got just a minute left here, and maybe even less, depending on which clock we're going here. But thank you again, State Senator Mary Kunesh, and have a great week. And I can't wait to listen to Monday's show, because it'll probably be the best of, and we'll be all over the country. So, Peeny, we'll be talking to you very soon. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
You bet. Take care, everybody. Stay warm.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and that was State Senator Mary Kunesh. And up next, Maureen Hackett of Howling for Wolves. We'll be right back, Wendy.
Stay with us.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College will help you get where you want to go. Located downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, one-on-one mentorship, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality. Connect with a counselor today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
Navigating COVID while protecting yourself can be difficult. Fortunately, there's a hotline you can call with any questions. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on vaccines, booster shots, and testing sites. Right now, booster shots are available to anyone over the age of 18 for those who are eligible. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline can also help with housing, food, medical, and educational support. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19, vaccinations, booster shots, or testing, please call 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Go ahead, Wen.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm so excited tonight. Yesterday, I had the privilege to deliver really, really good news that we've been waiting for a very long time. Wolves have been placed back on the endangered species list by the U.S. District Court in 48 states. And tonight, we have the pleasure of having Dr. Maureen Hackett, and she is the founder of Howling for Wolves. Welcome, Dr. Hackett, and I'm so happy to have you tonight to talk with our audience. How are you tonight?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great.
I just needed to test my lipstick out, though. I think it's a little too wrong tone. But anyway,
I think it looks fantastic. Absolutely. So I really have two questions for you that I'd like you to answer. First, I'd like to know how you feel about the wolves being placed back on the endangered species list. And the other question I have is Howling for Wolves statement talks about the paradigm shift to non-lethal wolf plans. And I'd like you to explain to our audience what that means.
Well, basically, the main reason that is used to, quote, hunt wolves or cull wolves or kill wolves is because of attacks on, accordingly, predation on livestock. I don't even call it predation if they're in their territory. But anyway, so our goal is to use methods and to encourage the use of methods to avoid the wolf coming toward the livestock and the producer's property. And you can do that. They're not all 100% effective, but if you look at the data about how killing wolves works, that's not 100% effective either. So the goal is to reduce wolf conflicts with livestock, with people, with pets, and also not kill wolves in response. And so that's what we're aiming for, but we're also aiming to have less non-lethal methods, frankly. We think that killing a wolf should be a shameful act. And I think that we're on our way. We've had a huge influence since 2015, I would say. Howling for Wolves went to Washington, D.C., advocated for not killing so many wolves in response to conflicts, and spoke to USDA officials. Actually, we got really high in the top of the chain, food chain. And after that, we think we had an influence on the fact that federal funding has been put forward for non-lethal methods too. And Minnesota is one of the states that got quite a bit of federal funding. So they actually started more non-lethal methods right from the USDA Wildlife Services Office. So we've got to give them a shout out. In 2018, Howling for Wolves donated Fladry, which is a form of non-lethal method. It's electrified wire, and that's for the cows. But the flags, which should be brightly colored yellow, in my opinion, we could talk about that another time, but kind of startle the wolf and keep them from the property. So that's one form. Another form is donkeys. Another form of non-lethal methods is sirens or lights. And carcass removal or doing good animal husbandry, not drawing the wolves towards the property, is a main form. That was a long answer. Sorry.
No, I think that's fantastic. I read once that there was a dead calf, and they did have the flattery around the dead calf as an experiment, and they left the dead calf there for a month, and then they had a cam watching what would happen, and the wolves went back and forth and looked, but they left. They did not try to enter that area because of those flags, and it really was a very good deterrent.
It can work for, I'm told by the Minnesota-based Wildlife Services, it can work for 90 to 120 days. And then after that, they can get accustomed to it. But if the wolves move on, that's great. Then they're going on hunting. And in Minnesota, there are a lot of deer for the wolf to hunt. And we can talk about why, at some point, we need to talk about, why the back and forth on the endangered species list and why we're very happy about it. But what we think is really needed to protect the wolf going into the future.
That would be great.
The wolf is different than most other animals in terms of deciding whether they're recovered, I think, or not. At least in terms of the human element. The human element, while a small portion of humans do this, but there is this malignment of the wolf, this attitude that wolves should be brutally treated. It's a horrific thing. And I know that there are parallels in the culture, Native American Anishinaabe culture of the parallel fates. And it really is true when you look at the wolf. And once the wolf loses protection, it's now been shown scientifically with good data from Wisconsin and Mexico, New Mexico, with the Mexican gray wolf, that when protections are reduced, wolf killing happens more. And when you have state-sponsored hunts or even state-sponsored killing for livestock conflicts, you have more wolf killing. At least it was shown with the Mexican gray wolves when they allowed some to be killed. There was this cryptic disappearance of the collared wolves, the Mexican gray wolves that were being studied. They just disappeared at higher rates following the killing of wolves, the lessening of protections. And then in Wisconsin, that's been found to be true also. So I know it makes sense that when you reduce protections and the state shows that killing is okay, with the wolf, it goes on steroids and illegal killing occurs much more so. In fact, we also know illegal killing can't be controlled for wolves. It can be a very hidden, secret thing. And so we think in order to really protect the wolf for future generations, you have to make it so that killing of wolves is a bad thing, and that people don't want to be known to do it. And it's also punished by law enforcement.
Exactly. Yeah, and the means that they use to kill the wolves are really horrific. They use dogs, trapping, calls. They can call to mimic babies to lure the wolves out and kill them at point blank range. So it's really, really a horrific thing. Dr. Maureen Hackett, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight and to help us understand more about why it's so important for us to protect our wolves. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and we all appreciate it.
I appreciate your thanks, and you are welcome, and miigwech also. And really, it's much more than us, that's for sure. 16 organizations filed these lawsuits. We were not one of them. I'll be clear, we can't take credit for the victory of this lawsuit. it really does put wind in our sails. It really does back what we want, what we have been doing, and make it even more potent. And I do have some plans on even decreasing the numbers of wolves killed in response to livestock, and tracking what the DNR is doing about enforcing illegal killing of wolves. One thing we have in law that we need to hold the DNR up to is, we had it passed in 2015. They have to list every known dead wolf on their website and update it quarterly. They're a year out of compliance. So we'll have a little more energy to push forward. And that's a state law. Howling for Wolves got that passed. And it helps. It helps to know what's going on out there. And now we can push, and we'll watch for that.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Dr. Maureen Hackett. Back to you, Robert.
Oh, wow. Great interview, Wendy and Maureen. Maureen, thank you so much for what you do for our relatives. And you know, we know that most Native communities have a wolf clan, and this is so important for us. And I really appreciate you being an ally with Native Roots Radio and the Native community. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Please free Leonard Peltier. Stop line 3.
Are your remote workers putting your company at risk?